Hello and welcome to Straight Shooting with Dan and Joseph. Tune into this podcast to get the latest news on competitive shooting events and to learn how to become a better shooter. Remember to subscribe to the podcast and be sure to recommend it to all of your shooting friends. Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Straight Shooting with Dan and Joseph. I'm Dan Kello alongside Joseph Stacker, and we're here today to bring you episode 6. Looking forward to today's show. Normally we would go in and have some score updates, but unfortunately not too many scores going on during this COVID-19 pandemic. Did you see, or did anybody have any USPSA matches?
No. Everybody I've talked to, they've either the match has been canceled, or if they're like the one putting it on, then they're like, yeah, I just had to call and cancel it.
And pretty well same things going on with I think the NRL 22 stuff, as well as the most of the bench rest stuff around the country. But anyway, we've got some other updates about Straight Shooting podcast and some things we've got going on with it, and looking forward to that. Then we're going to get on the phone, have Jim Cannon. We're going to call up Jim Cannon as 22LR Marksman on everything. Instagram. That's right, on everything. And he's become very popular, very big into NRL 22 and has some matches. Anyway, we're going to be talking to him today about some NRL 22 stuff. And then we'll go finish up with Bleeding Off with Joseph. Joseph's going to go over, I forgot, our Straight Shooting Challenge. I skipped over that. We're going to go over our Straight Shooting Challenge where we did the 4 for core drill. Have those up on our YouTube channel, and want you to go on there and look for those. And then anyway, to finish off the show, we'll have Bleeding Off with Joseph, and he's going to go over some dry firing drills and some other drills that you can do to keep up your skills and for the USPSA while we're staying home and not getting out very much. But anyway, looking forward to that. All right. In lieu of our match updates, our other updates are we have a website. Mm-hmm. Tell them the website.
It's basically a platform where everything is kind of accumulated there. So instead of having to go through like Facebook individually or Instagram individually, YouTube, it's all stacked. Like everything's in the same spot. So we'll have our latest videos from YouTube up there, updates from Facebook and Instagram, stuff like that. So if you just want one place to go, it's just Straight Shooting with danandjoseph.com.
Yep. All right, so we're going to have that there. Go check that out. So that also gives us an email that everybody can tune in and send to us. It's a little more appropriate. So it's host, H-O-S-T, it's straightshootingwithdanandjoseph.com. So that'll be the place you want to send us any videos, any
questions, or we get most of our questions are from the YouTube channel. And it's usually stuff about products. And so if you have any questions about what we use or what we sell, if it's price or dimensions or brand, whatever that is, or if you have something you'd like us to talk about, like a topic, you can send it there. And also any videos of you shooting, like if there's something you can do that you don't think anybody else can do, go ahead and send it to us, and we can try to beat it or even do it. We're always looking for stuff like that, like a challenge. We can make that the challenge for the week. So anything, pretty much whatever questions, whatever topics that you want to see us talk about or go over, or whatever you need, just send to that email.
All right, host at straightshootingwithdanandjoseph.com. We've got our Instagram page up, Straight Shooting with D and J. So that's straight_shooting_W_D_and_J.
All the underscores.
Probably not the best thing that I chose on there, but that's what it is. I'm sure if you just search on there Straight Shooting with Dan and Joseph, that it'll come up. It'll come up there, and you'll be able to find it. We'll have to type in all the underscores.
And everything's tagged. Like, so if you go to that page, you can find me, or if you find me, you can find that page. It's all kind of linked together. Same thing with Facebook.
Yep. There again, go to the website, and we've got all of it on the website. Also have our Facebook page, Straight Shooting with Dan and Joseph, and then the YouTube channel, Straight Shooting Podcast is the YouTube channel. Be sure to go on there and follow and like all of those, and we would appreciate it.
And that's the same. It's the same show as the audio show. You just get to see us. And so if there's something we're talking about that we're showing, like we did with the tuners and stuff like that, then you'll actually be able to see that on the YouTube channel. It's the same exact episode, just visual instead of just audio. And so if you have any questions or anything like that, they may be answered by just watching the video.
And we hit one milestone earlier, or a few days ago, 1,000 downloads on the podcast. So excited up about that.
We already have like almost 500 on Facebook.
So that's cool. That's good. We're enjoying it. We're having fun with it. Please get on there and join the crowd and help us learn more about shooting in the different disciplines and help our listeners as well. All right, moving along to our straight shooting challenge. This is what we're going to do every podcast. We have a challenge that Joseph and I try, and sometimes these are difficult things we just try to do, and sometimes these are just drills that we want to do and work out whatever these drills are. So for this one, we were talking with Blake Lyles of 415 Training last episode. He come up with a 4 for core drill, which is 4 shots to work on your core fundamentals for USPSA shooting, pistol shooting, and we did this and recorded and put it on there. We've got a diagram of the setup for the stage setup on our website. Go to straightshootingwithdanandjoseph.com, and that is on there. But essentially,
it's a super easy stage. To set up anyway, and it's something that you could practice this every day, and you're only going to get better at core fundamental aspects of pistol shooting, which is the whole premise of it. And I like it because it's practical.
Right.
Like if you're, any real world shooting, this is going to help you, whether that's getting faster or target acquisition or transition speed, shooting speed, anything. This one 4-round count drill that takes you a couple seconds to do is going to help with all of that. Grip, draw, everything. And so it's a super easy drill, super simple. 2 targets, they're set up. First one is 4 yards in front and 4 yards to the left. Second, the farther target is 10 yards in front of you and 4 to the right. And so when you're looking at it, like you're looking straight, you have one over here, one farther, just over here, slightly to the right. And so there's enough movement to where you can't orient directly towards this one or directly towards that one. You have to kind of figure out that in-between space, or else you're going to lose some time. But on the timer, you just draw, shoot 2 on the first, shoot 2 on the right, and then see what your time was and your hits. We did it 3 times and just kind of took our average from that.
And total time for 3.
Yeah.
So our challenge to you is do it 3 times, give your total time for all 3. So what did we come up with? Did you save that? I thought you took a pic of it.
It is. It's on my phone.
It's on the phone that we're using to record.
It ended up being, I think it was like a little under 7. It was 6 something.
Yeah. I know my best one was 215.
Yeah. It was between a 2.5 and 3 second average for each one. I think I had 2 that were right next to each other. One was like a 2.63 and one was a 2.65, and then the other one was like a 2.7 or 8 maybe.
No, I wasn't a 215. I was a 315.
Yeah, 215 is smoking.
Yeah, 315, not.
But it was right around 2.5, 3 seconds for each one, and so the average ended up being like 6.5, a little under. I think we were both in the 6s for the average time. And so we calculated the hit factor off of that. You had 2 Charlies, I had 3, and I kind of squeaked out just from going faster. But I did have 1 extra Charlie.
Seemed like I had a 315. I think I had one that was down in the 2s, where you were in 2s on every one of them. But my fastest one, I know I had 2 Charlies, and all the rest, and it was on the far target. And they were dang near touching one another, but they were just a little bit to the 10 o'clock position off of And they were definitely Charlies, but
And mine was the opposite. So all 3 of my Charlies were on the closer target, and I had all A's on the farther one. And I think that's just because I'm trying to gas it on that.
yeah, you're trying to
On
pull
that
and go fast.
quick target.
All right, but we had a good time with it, and we will put those up on the YouTube channel. Actually, they're already on there.
Yeah.
On the
And
YouTube.
Blake did his too.
Yeah,
and
Blake smoked it.
he obviously smoked us, but if you're better than us, then you can try to beat Blake's. But I think most people are gonna either fall.
And Blake was under 2 in every one of them, wasn't he? Seemed like he was 1.9.
It was like right at. He had one that was sub 2, but he only had one Charlie.
Yeah.
At all of them.
on Charlie. So anyway, I remember looking at that, and he's a little over. Basically, he's a second faster than me each time.
Yeah.
And so, got room to improve. But that was the first time we'd ever done it. We'd only done dry fire up with it up to that point. So, as we're being new shooters, kind of give you an idea compared to a new shooter what we're doing, as well as what somebody who's a grandmaster, Blake, what kind of scores and times he's looking at doing. But
and honestly, if you the thing with that drill that I really focused on is how much more of like the practical shooting I've done more than you, and it amounted to like a couple points on the hit factor.
Yep.
And so like all that work, as many more matches and rounds as I shot at, how many more drills, it comes down to this like
but that's what
small amount.
Yeah. And they keep adding up over time. But anyway, get on there, do those. We'll have a different challenge for next week. And if you have any suggestions for something for us to do, please send it to us there. host@straightshootingwithdanandjoseph.com is our email. And we'll be happy to give that a try. All right, moving right along. Precision Shots brought to you by Kello Shooting Sports, your one-stop shop for competition shooting needs. We're going to get Jim Cannon on the phone and talk to him about some NRL 22 stuff. And let me see if I can get this going. We tried it earlier, and it worked really good. Oh, it's ringing. That's better than last time we did it. Called Paul and said,
Got the reject button from
that's
Paul.
right. All right, calling Jim Cannon, NRL
He's in
22 guy.
Utah.
Hello.
Hey, Jim, this is Dan and Joseph. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good. All right, we're live on the recording here going. Appreciate you taking your time out of your day there to spend with us and talk a little NRL 22.
I'm always happy to share some quarantine time with someone else.
That's right. Exactly. All right, so we got Jim Cannon on. Going to talk to us a little bit about some NRL 22. Jim, we've got to know Jim through your Instagram account, 22LR Marksman. Jim has come on board as one of the Ely sponsored shooters, and we've been working with him the last 3 years and had a lot of fun. Really respect Jim. Know he's got a lot of knowledge, especially when he's my long range 2-2 guy that I go to if any questions I have on that. But anyway, Jim, give us a little bit of background on yourself, kind of your family and occupation type stuff.
So my family, we reside in Utah, Central Utah, and I've got a wife named Natalie and a daughter who's just turned 4 named Ruby, and we're due with our second daughter in 5 days. So we're growing. My occupation, I'm a realtor by day, and I actually have an FFL, SOT, so I sell guns and suppressors on the side as well as kind of a hobby business, and it's been pretty fun because of and things like that. So yeah, it's been good.
Cool.
All right, good deal. And so you're in Utah, right there close to Salt Lake City?
Yeah, I'm about 35 minutes south of Salt Lake in a town called Pleasant Grove is where I live.
Okay. All right. Well, how long have you been doing any competition shooting?
My first one, I remember it well. It was in June of 2013, and that wasn't a good time. It was good, but not good. There was another series that was here called the 22 Marksman Challenge, and that's kind of where my name comes from on Instagram. But It was kind of just a homegrown competition. It was a little bit PRS style, with barricades and stuff, but a lot of prone, maybe 80% prone and 20% positional or barricades.
Okay.
And we generally shot 25 yards out to 125 or so, and we did eight or 10 stages. And I came completely with the wrong gear, wrong ammo. I had no idea what I was getting into. Part of my fault, I didn't ask, but part of it was, I guess the match director wasn't, he couldn't dedicate that kind of time to me to coach me up, because there's a lot of guys going. But
Sure.
Anyway.
Okay. So, and that was in 2013, so about 7 years ago?
Yep.
Okay. So then what about your first NRL 22? What led you over to that?
So we knew that NRL 22 was forming because we had a rather large following with that match. And I'd been shooting that other match for 4 or 5 years. When Tyler Frainer came and visited us, he's the CEO or the creator of NRL 22 and NRL Centerfire. And he visited us and just wanted to check out how it runs and how it works. And I'm proud to say I beat him that day he visited, but he just wanted to kind of chat with us and see, could this match be run on a kind of a postal match format where, targets or the courses of fire are distributed nationally, and, can we say, hey, 1,000 people across the country in 50 different clubs, can they shoot this and then report scores back and kind of keep it really organized? And he kind of asked us for some advice, and we gave him some, and he certainly used other experiences and advice too to make it happen. But my first NRL 22 match was a local match that was probably 2 hours away. Another gentleman decided to start it right away. The very first NRL 22 match month, well, I think it was September of, 2017.
Okay.
And we shot that, had a great time. And 2 hours for shooting potentially only 50 rounds is a lot to commit to. So I decided I'm going to start my own. And so in November of 2017, I created one about a half hour from my house, and we're in a much more populated area than that other match was. But I started it, and we had 17 or 18 people come, and ever since then we've run a monthly match until the virus stuff happened, of course. So.
Okay.
And it's the match that you run is like the biggest one now. Seems like.
Yeah. We've had some huge success. I've got to thank Rodney Downs of the 22 Marksman Challenge. He really planted the roots of Utah shooters. There's a lot of people here that really enjoy 22 precision shooting and centerfire, PRS model matches. And a lot of his shooters wanted to be recognized on the national level, and they wanted to kind of show off that we, in a way, had a couple of year head start in this sport. And so I think in the first national, there was 69 shooters, and, just about everybody was from Utah. It was a very stacked, leaderboard there with Utah. But the second national, I think there was probably 11 of the top 15 were from my match. So we are surrounded by very, very good shooters, and we just had the experience, and it's been nice to have that those roots. But we recently, I think our last match was in February, I believe. We had 91 shooters there, and that was a monthly match. So we're getting close to having the numbers that the nationals have for our local match.
Just for the local
it's
match.
Crazy. Yeah.
Shootah.
Yeah, that's right. Excellent.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's crazy to think about a monthly match being that big, but that's awesome. I mean, congratulations on that and your success with that. I mean, that's just fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, so as your competitor, you mentioned some of that about the national tournament there. What's your greatest or finish in the big match that you've had NRL 22 wise?
So locally, I've won those certainly. Nationally in the first one was 2018. I think I came in 9th place overall and 8th place in my division. And then in 2019, last year, it was a whole different ball game. It was a way different challenge. We shot up to 350 yards. There was more than twice as many shooters. It was a huge deal. And I think I came in 11th in my division and 13th overall.
Okay.
And that was out of like 125 shooters. And yeah, that felt great. I think overall probably my proudest day was in 2015. I won the 22 Marksman Challenge here locally in Utah. But that's a 1 year series, and there was 118 other shooters there, and I won that kind of a marathon of shooting. But yeah, I won that series, and I was super proud to do that. It was quite an accomplishment.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I've got so many out there, and like you say, it was a marathon event, and quite the win there. It's definitely something to be proud of. All right,
Yeah.
So kind of an overview of NRL 22. I mean, Joseph and I have never shot in one of those matches. I mean, if somebody's brand new like we are and we say, hey, that sounds kind of interesting, where do we go to get some information and to start finding matches and that kind of stuff? They have a website and all that?
Yeah, a very common question I hear through Instagram or through just being on their website. I get a lot of people emailing me or calling me based on their interest in NRL 22. Their website is just nrl22.org. And if you go there, you can see the scores, you can see targets and, their sponsorships and, what kind of gear you might need and want. And then there's also a link to local clubs and matches. So you can type in your zip code and then see the closest match. You can sort it by, within 100 miles or within 50 miles. And you can see who is the nearest match director and contact them and find out their schedule, or if they have a Facebook page or a website or whatever. And you can get in touch with them and figure out what you need to do to get started.
Okay. All right. So most of the matches, do you need to pre-register for a monthly match, or is it okay to just walk up?
For the most part, I'm speaking for myself. It's been totally fine to just walk up, because ultimately it's a lot of work to advertise a match and to kind of be known and to be able to say, hey, you need to register beforehand. I'm not a fan of turning people away at a match, because usually they've driven a long way and they've gotten up early and they got their gear and they're ready to go. So
sure.
I really want to just include everybody as much as I can. That's kind of why we are growing like we're growing. But I can't speak for other matches, but I think that most you can just show up, but most they want to at least know you're coming so they can plan for, how many squads are they doing, or how many, how many paper targets do we need to bring, that type of stuff.
Right.
So.
Okay. All right. I understand that. Absolutely. It's good to always at least an email or something, say, hey, I'm looking to come and whatnot. Because as we run matches too, it is good to know you're pretty close on the numbers, how many you're going to get.
And a lot of match directors will run practice score, and so they're actually registering people, and so they can pre-squad and they can pre-pay, and everything's just done on there. But some don't. If I was running a match that had 5 friends, I'd just say come, and if they brought a friend, it doesn't really change much for me. Okay. But when we get, when I have 30 registered and 60 show up, that's a really different, it's a different day,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we do that, as they come up to a match, so before I go to my first match, do I need to get a competitor number or register with NRL 22 or any of that?
No, so you can certainly, but the difference between registering to be a member of NRL 22 that has an annual fee is, if you come and shoot my match, you're more than welcome to, but you won't be entered to win the national prizes based on your score or your finish place.
Okay.
So if you come to my match and you win, I will submit your scores to the national NRL 22 organization, and then they will do a monthly live prize giveaway. So all of the winners of each division will be entered in to win some serious prizes. They give away suppressors and stocks and guns and all kinds of stuff. You can't even believe it. So that's the main difference. And so you're not really in the national race,
right?
But you still can come and shoot and have a great time. I mean, the difference in fun is basically zero, right, but the difference in prizes won is something.
Yeah. So if you were looking to continue with this, it would for sure be in your best interest to register.
Yeah. And part of my advice for people too is we're talking today in April, they actually don't even let you join because the national match is scheduled for May. And I still don't know if it's really happening or not. But if you're talking to me in June, of course, join, because that gives you a membership from June through May of the next year. Right. The season is starting in June and goes through May. So if people are asking me in February, I usually say wait a second, because you're only buying like a 3-month membership, and it's still the same cost. There's no proration.
Okay. All right. Very good. And so how much is that membership there typically?
It depends on your division, but it's actually been a while since I joined, or I joined last June, but I think it was 75 to 100 and 125, so somewhere in that range, depending on your division.
Okay. And on a standard monthly match, what is typically the entry fee? I mean, I know it varies from place to place, but about what can we expect? Sure.
So I'm just $20 per shooter, flat rate. It's just easy to keep track of it that way. I know some match directors have a special price for youth or your first time. I've done specials where I'll say, if you bring a friend, you're half price, or buy one, get one free, or something like that. I just figure if I get people to come to my match, they're going to come again. So I can eat the $20 their first time, and they'll come back again, because it's just so addicting. It's so fun.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So if we go to a match, they're going to have a base class and an open class. Is that the only 2 classes available?
There's actually 5 classes now.
Oh man. Okay.
So there's open, there's base, there's ladies. That's pretty self-explanatory. There's young guns, so 16 and under, and there's actually air rifle now. So it's not the air rifles that you guys probably are accustomed to. It's these FX impacts or things like that are $2,000 30 caliber or 25 caliber pellet guns, and they're really, really awesome.
And they have like the ones with the big like canisters, and you have to pre-fill them.
Yep. Yeah. So we usually guys bring like a scuba tank, and they fill them, safely off the bench, and then they start their stage. So they keep the pressures about the same every stage. But they have like a carbon fiber tank on the front of them, or depending, they might be in the rear depending on the model, but usually they're right about where the bipod's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I assume they're shooting a lot different distances too then.
Yeah, those can shoot. There's guys that like hunt with the
right.
Those are serious. And, they
so
shoot
they have like
far.
They have like 38 caliber and 50 caliber huge ones, but those would break our target. So they made rules that said it's got to be, I believe, 25 or 30 caliber, and they're gonna just distinguish it based on the kinetic energy, or the energy on target.
Mm-hmm.
So they are accurate. I mean, as far as shooting groups at 25 or 50, they're right there with the 22, but they shoot just a touch slower. They're around 850 to 900 feet per second, and they are a way lower ballistic coefficient. So out at distance, it gets way, way more difficult with any wind or drop.
Sure.
So they can't quite hang, but when you're shooting these itty bitty, 1/4 inch targets at 50 yards, they can do that. But it's not quite as easy as a 22.
So you have the divisions, is there like an overall, because like in USPSA you still have, like, if you're shooting carry optics or production, you can still potentially win the overall against like limited and open guys. Is it the same? Like if somebody just is hammering with an air rifle, are they potentially gonna win out over somebody shooting open or base?
Yeah, so I don't know that that's ever happened, other than that match I had 91 people at. We actually had a base class shooter win. And it just blew everybody away, because it's just never happened before. We've had young guns. We have a local young gun who's one of the best in the nation. And, he wins young guns every month. And then, half the time he'll win overall. And so if he wins overall, I submit him as the overall, open winner. But technically he can't be open because he's not over 16, but he's still winning. Yeah. I mean, he's recognized for sure, and he's entered into in the drawings and everything. Of course, yeah. When he beats up on people that are 2 and 3 times his age, he deserves it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So does the NRL 22? I mean, obviously they have a national competition, but throughout the year, do they have? I mean, are there state championships or regional championships or anything of that sort?
Yeah, so like I said, I started running my match in, I think it was November of 2017, and in March of 17, but in March I was asked to run a regional match, excuse me, and I ran it at the range I run my local match at in Holdover Creek. It's at the city of Springville, and I just invited people in neighboring states, so Nevada, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, Arizona. I just said anyone can come, and I had a food truck, and it was a lot more. It was like 10 stages instead of the normal 5, and I stretched the distances out to I think over 200 yards, and we had a great time. I think we had 63 shooters that time, and the regionals were intended to be kind of the entry to the invites, where it was going to determine who was invited to go to nationals.
Mm-hmm.
But nationally, I think the NRL was a little young when they did that, and so it wasn't fully adopted, and it wasn't really utilized. And so what they changed in this last season was there wasn't really any official regionals. They just said, the top X number of shooters per club are invited. And with my club where we average 50 or 60 a month, and we hit 91. They would give me a lot more invites. So my top maybe 10% might be invited to go to nationals, and this year is out in Tennessee. But so they typically had planned to do a regional in March and then a national in May. And lately they've just done the national in May, just because the weather is more of a guarantee. And the regionals have kind of been now almost like a grassroots thing where I was going to do a regional, but this virus slowed us down a little bit. So that still will happen, but it may be into next season. We just want to make sure that sponsors that have committed prizes to us get those distributed and advertised. So, yeah.
Sure. Okay. All right. Good. So we got regionals and we got the national. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So now, if I'm going to go to a match, and let's say it's my first time to go, and I've got a gun that I know it's going to make a base class, what can I expect at a match? You said there that your typical one, I think, was 5 stages for like a monthly match.
Yeah. So like I said, the NRL 22 is kind of a postal match. They distribute a PDF. You can print it out locally, and it includes targets, includes the courses of fire. So it has like a diagram of where the targets will be and the sizes, the distance, all that. And then in what barricade you might be shooting from. We shoot from ladders or tank traps or buckets or barrels or all these things. And because of that, I can set it up, how they want me to. And typically they set up 5 stages, and they kind of have a pattern. There's typically at least one positional, meaning standing, sitting, kneeling, prone. Well, I guess standing, sitting, or kneeling, not prone. There's a prone stage, there's a barricade stage, and then there's a paper stage. And then there's one more of one of those 3, or one of those 4, excuse me.
Okay.
So they make these 5 stages, and they make it so there's maybe a stage that a young gun, a 10-year-old girl might have a good time shooting and do well at. And then they make some that are difficult for guys like me that have shot, for 7 years and know what they're doing with their, kind of expensive rifles. So 5 stages, typically 10 shots per stage, and it's typically either 1 through 4 distances. It might be, 2 shots at 25, 50, 75, and 100, and there's staggering different target sizes. And you might be changing positions mid stage. So you might start on the top step of the ladder and then go down at the bottom, 2 shots apiece. They really try to shake it up where you're kind of mentally stressed as well as physically stressed, and you're trying to keep the order, correct and not do something wrong. I'm sure it's a lot like 3-gun or multi-gun, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So, so basically 50 shots is what we're looking at doing in a match. How's everything scored?
So typically every shot is 10 points. There's some stages where they give the shooter an option. So sometimes they might say there's a 1-inch, a 2-inch, and a 3-inch target at 100 yards. And the 3-inch is 5 points, the 2-inch is 7 points, and the 1-inch is 10 points. So it's your choice.
Okay.
So if you want to go win, you kind of got to go for the 1 inch because someone else will do it.
Yeah,
if you
because somebody else is going to hit it and get it.
Yeah. So with stages like that, though, my strategy is usually I'll go for maybe the 7-pointer first. If I hit it, I'll go to the 10-pointer. That way, if I'm a bullet width like a quarter inch off, and I still hit the 7-pointer as almost like a sider, and then I'll go to my high value targets, and I'll try to spot my shot too, and kind of start hitting. Even if I miss, I can usually correct and hit the small one. So
Okay.
I can usually see the bullet where it's going. So.
All right. And how much time are you allowed to do this?
So every stage is typically 2 minutes. Once in a while, they have stages where you have 10 seconds starting from standing, and you jump down on your rifle on the ground and shoot 1 shot, and then you reset and you have maybe 15 seconds for 2 shots, and then 20 seconds for 3 shots, and then 25 for 4. And there's some stages that are different, but the vast majority are 2 minutes, 10 shots.
Okay. And it's not based on time. I mean, it doesn't matter if you use all 2
Nope.
minutes or if you do 1. So it's just points.
Not at all. Yep.
Okay. All right. And then how often? So we go this month and shoot our monthly match. Is NRL 22 sending out new stages and everything on a monthly basis?
Yes.
Okay.
So I typically run my matches on the 4th Saturday, and there's a reason for that. I don't know if this has helped us or not, but they'll typically release the new course of fire. Say they release Maeve. They'll release Maeve about a week before the 1st of May. And so if you're running your match on May 1st, you have about a week to kind of, get the gear together you need, like a, tank trap or whatever those barricades might be. And maybe you can practice it once or twice. But I like running mine on late in the month because we have a lot of time to figure out what we need and, prep a lot of these paper targets. And we have big sheets of plywood we put up for the paper stages too. So I just like to have a lot of time to prep. And with the numbers we bring in, it's definitely necessary. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there a so with USPSA and even like multi-gun, there can be a very wide variety of like appeal to a certain match because of how they set things up. Is it kind of that way with NRL? Because like some of them will have like kind of gimmicky stages that are fun for everybody, where you have to like sit in a car or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like a lot of your local like small matches, they're not gonna have the ability to do things like that because they either don't have the equipment or they don't care about being that like gimmicky. Is that kind of the appeal to some of these matches also? Like, is there one like in Utah or like your club that does something specifically like that nobody else does, or is there a club that does that?
I think that's certainly the case with some. I mean, like I said, there's 5 stages that the NRL 22 produces, but as a match stretcher, I can add, a bonus or 3 or 4 bonuses even if I want to make it a little more interesting and spread out the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we shoot in squads, so squad 1 might be starting on stage 1, and if there's 20 people in that squad, it's going to take all day.
Yeah.
So I like to break it up and divide people up so there's more people shooting at a time. When we had the 91 people, we had 2 identical stages side by side, and so you might be 1A or 1B, and then you'd rotate. But I think the appeal of ours is that we really try to get people through it as quickly as possible. We were done with 91 shooters, 5 stages in, I think, under 4 hours, which is crazy. There's other matches I've heard of people have 15 people and takes them 4 hours.
Yeah.
So we pride ourselves on giving you your Saturday back. You got to be with your wife or your family. But we also have a really unique facility where it's close to a relatively large city, and then we also have the ability to go much further than the 100 yards. The NRL 22 is designed around an average range across the country being 100 yards. So they never, ever give you a course of fire that is outside of 100 yards. Then you go to nationals, and it really, really blows your mind because we'll go out to 350 or something crazy.
Yeah, you haven't shot that all year until now.
Right. Yeah. But that's, I think, part of the reason we do well nationally is because I do that. I add bonus stages a lot, and we'll shoot, 150. We'll shoot. I mean, we can shoot 389. We can shoot at my match. So we don't do that all that often, but it just takes a little bit of time, and it's actually very hard to spot a hit or miss that far out. But it's definitely a hit when you can stretch it out a little bit and shake people up a little bit.
Okay, so they're going to have 5 stages that everybody's going to do, but then some clubs could add a bonus stage, like you said, or something to bring in something if they're able to and have time and have the facility.
Correct. Yep. And that's kind of been fun. What I've done lately because of my social media presence, I've gotten a lot of people sending me guns or gear, and they're saying, "Hey, stick this in that bonus stage and make everybody shoot it." So I've had Will Courtson send us some really sweet rifles, and I made everybody at my match shoot a Will Courtson rifle.
Okay.
And it's been a
that.
pretty big hit. No, not at all. It's pretty neat.
That does sound like fun. Okay, so Joseph and I are looking to do this. We want to go shoot a match. Obviously, I think we're going to start with base class just so that we can have some fun with it and not have a whole bunch of money tied up into it. Can you give me an overview on the base class rules?
Yes. So the NRL 22 rules for base class is the sum of your scope and your rifle in the MSRP is $1,050 or less. So it doesn't matter if you got a really good deal from a friend or any of that. It's all based on MSRP of the scope plus the rifle.
Okay.
So very, very common. There's basically 2 pivots here. There's the most common 2 I see are the CZ Pro Varmint. So it's a CZ 457 Pro Varmint, that is, and the Athlon Argos BTR. And now there's a Gen 2. People are doing that one a lot because it's still under that price range. The other one would be the Tika T1X with that same scope, the Athlon Argos BTR Gen 2. And there's a real specific reason for those. I mean, for one, you really want a 10-round mag in your gun, because if you got 2 minutes for 10 shots, you're not going to be single feeding, and you really don't want to have a tube fed gun. It's partially unsafe. We don't like to have those on the line because you can't unload those very easily.
Okay.
But the scope in particular, it focuses under 25 yards, which you need to shoot a quarter-inch target sometimes at 25 yards. And so most scopes are 50 and up when they parallax. We really require a special scope in this sport that can go under 25 yards. And some people cheat that by they'll zoom out a little bit and they'll turn the parallax down all the way and they can kind of see okay. I think the Vortex Gen 2 Razor does that, but I like having a scope that focuses down enough, and then that can see your target really well. So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And
those 2 be. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I kind of wondered on that because there was one video, and I don't remember who was shooting it specifically. I think it was at your club, but there was this target apparatus, and it looks like they're like almost the size of a pencil, and they're swingers.
Probably smaller.
And like the biggest one has like a quarter shaped like bell on the bottom of it, and then it gets down to where it's like super skinny and there's no bell, and there's basically no room. Like if you miss, you miss. I mean, either you hit it or you don't. Like you're not gonna graze that thing.
So,
and I was kind of wondering if you have this big time like night force, you're not gonna be able to see that thing at 20, 30 yards because I mean it's not gonna focus on it. So I was kind of wondering on that.
So that's a great question. So we call it a KYL, a know your limit. And in the previous series that I won in 2015, the 22 Marksman Challenge, we used to shoot that. So it used to go from 2 inches down to a quarter inch, and in quarter-inch increments. So 2 inch, 1 3/4, 1 1/2, etc. And the key about it was called a know your limit, not a learn your limit. So you could stop and retain points, or you could keep going, and if you missed, you get a 0.
Yeah, because that was the thing. Like the first miss was out, like they were done.
Yeah, it's a very strategic challenge. there was a lot of times when we position where we were shooting that day based on where our friends were shooting. I wanted to be after my competitor because if he missed it, I might go 3/4 of the way and stop and retain, some points. And that little tiny 1/4 inch one, it's the size of a 22 bullet. And it, if you shoot at 25, it's not terribly difficult to go through it and hit it every time. But when you push that to 50, that gets way more difficult. I mean, I don't know how big the X rings are in your bench rest stuff you're doing, but it's tiny. I mean, it's the size of a bullet at 50 yards. So,
I wasn't even looking at the bullet diameter. So I was looking like, if you're looking through a scope, this line is going to be the same as your scope, like as the line in your scope.
As a parallel,
it's the same
as your reticle. So, and that goes into the open class stuff. There are night forces now that focus well under 25 yards. In fact, the one I shoot, it's the ATAC or Attacker 735. It focuses at 11 yards on 35 power. So
that's good.
It's crystal clear. I can see, little scratches and dents on the steel, and it's amazing. I love that scope.
Okay, so this Athlon Argos BTR, what is it? What is its power?
It's a 6-24 by 50, and it's first focal plane. So that's important in this game too, because there's a lot of times that you'll be maybe you don't have the time to dial the turrets every single shot, for your dope, and so you may want to hold over. I hold over a lot, even when I have the time to dial. I just think it's easier. So if you're zooming out to maybe 18 instead of 24, it's nice to have that first focal so all your subtensions are still correct, no matter the zoom you're on.
Yeah.
And when you say holdover, just for people who maybe don't do a lot of rifle shooting or shooting in general, that's knowing the offset of your optic to where you're aiming, essentially. Is that what you're talking about?
It's not as much as the offset between your optic and, say, your bore. It's more, you guys ever gone outside and sprayed your hose? There's kind of an arc to it.
Yeah.
At one point, you could be pointing it right at something and hitting it, but if you go further out, you got to hold higher, right? Because it's going to drop. So it's just the arc of the bullet. So I know that if I zero at 25 yards and I want to shoot 75 yards, I'm going to hold about 1 mil, or about that much. At 200, it's another mil, 2 mil. So I know those holdovers just because I've done it so much, but I know the bullet's going to drop about 3.5 inches at 25. And about 7 inches at 200.
Right. Instead of actually adjusting your scope to where your point of aim is dead on.
I got you.
Yep.
All right.
Precisely.
So for rifle and scope, we're looking at the CZ457 that you had mentioned in the Tika T1X, and then you're saying the Athlon Argos BTR, the 6-24 by 50 Gen 2, and that gets us in the MSRP. Now, if I've got Uncle John's 22 that's older or something, can I show up and shoot it? I mean, as long as let's say it's a CZ452 that's not being, and it's no longer in production. Does that knock that one out?
That's a great question. So what they did was, because there might be a 40X that shows up, and I don't know what those went for, but they used to cost $299 in the Sears catalog. Well, what they did was they said, if the rifle is discontinued, it's no longer a base class rifle. Okay. Just because, even though a CZ455 was discontinued practically yesterday, they're no longer allowed in base class. So the 457, which is arguably a better action, is now allowed.
Yeah, because it's currently
you can actually upgrade. Yeah.
So if you show up with one of those, you can shoot, but you'll have to shoot open class?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. So that's good.
So I guess that's an easier.
Open class.
I guess that's an easier answer rather than like, no, you can't use that because we can't prove what it's worth. But you can still use it, but you're going to be going.
You just got to go to open class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. For sure.
All right. So we're looking at those two rifles at that particular scope there. You gave us some other things there. I guess what else? We're going to need a bipod. Am I correct?
Correct, and that's something about base classes. You can spend $1,000 on the bipod. It doesn't matter. There's no price limit there. But most who shoot base are doing it because they have a budget.
Sure.
So the most common bipod I suggest or I see is a Harris SBRM. It's the swivel bench rest model. So it has notch legs and it can swivel. So basically you can level it on uneven ground if you think of it that way.
Okay.
I really like putting a pod lock on mine too, so I can lock that swivel if I don't want it to move on me anymore. Some other common ones would be an Atlas, a Evolution would be popular, but again, that's getting to the same price as the scope, so it seems quite a bit of money for a base class. But I would say Harris is the most common in base. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then, am I going to need any kind of bags?
Yes. So that's one of the things that we are known for in PRS and NRL centerfire N22 shooting is our bags. I know that we use bags on a bench all the time, of course, but it's nice to have a bag that kind of do it all. Sometimes we'll throw a bag on the tank trap, right in the middle of the tank trap, and we want the bag to kind of form to that tank trap, and then we slam the gun down on it, and it kind of forms to the gun, kind of almost making like a glue in between those two.
Right.
And so it kind of settles the rifle down. You're balancing the rifle kind of on the center of balance, and you can almost just leave the rifle there and point it and just snap the trigger off, and it hits the target. So a common bag might be the Armageddon Gear Game Changer. That's really been popular. And then a Weebad Fortune Cookie. It looks kind of like a fortune cookie. It's like an arch shape. Those two are probably the most common, but there's a million different bags out there.
Okay. All right. So I'll get one of those two bags. Got my bipod, got my gun, scope. What else am I going to need?
Well, you need ammo, of course.
Sure.
And
okay.
there's a lot of ammo out there. And one of the things I did wrong in my first competition ever was I went and bought CCI velocitors. So I think it was 36 grains at 1,640 feet per second or something like that.
Right.
And it was awful. It was terrible. Yes. So we typically shoot subsonic ammo. In base class, I see most people shooting something between CCI standard velocity and Ely 10X. Okay. So basically, you're going to spend between $30 a brick and what's 10X go for, Dan? Like
$20 a box.
Yeah, 20. So big.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, so
200 brick.
So 200 brick. Yep. So the ammo is really a wide open thing in base because you can actually get. I have a TK-T1X that shoots 10X like you wouldn't believe, and it's a base class gun.
Okay.
So you kind of have a wide range there, but most I'd say are in the $30 to $60 per brick range for base class.
Okay, but you definitely want something that's subsonic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's kind of like
once that bullet drops under, it kind of freaks out the bullet in that transonic barrier. It just doesn't hold its accuracy at all.
Okay.
And I mean, you can get into the price points on ammo all day long, and at some point something is going to seem too expensive, but it's kind of like a return on an investment. So if you're using this and trying to win with it, you really want something that's going to perform. So even if it's a base class rifle that's not like a custom competition gun, whatever you're feeding it is going to determine your performance essentially.
Yep. And
we have a gentleman that shoots my match, and he has a Voodoo with a $3,500 scope. He has like a $6,000 or $7,000 setup, and he was shooting CCI standard velocity forever in it. And he was, in case he's listening, he wasn't doing very good, but he switched to something in the $60 or $80 range, and suddenly he can shoot. And it just clicked.
And that's because the ammo can actually perform with the rifle. I mean, you're shooting different performance level. Like you can have a rifle that can perform at a 10, but you're giving it ammo that maxes out at a 4.
Yeah.
All right, very good. So, all right, got my rifle, my scope, my ammo, bipod, a bag. Anything else I need before I go to my first match?
That's about it, honestly. I think there will be a lot of learning in your first match, of course, and those are the basics. Some guys might have a Kestrel weather meter to measure the barometric pressure and all these crazy things.
Right.
That is nice to have, but you really can get away without it.
Sure.
So yeah, that's your basic setup right there.
All right, and then I need to be able to basically just prepared to shoot a target from 25 yards out. Am I right? 25 would be the closest, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Out to what's the maximum distance?
So on a normal match, 100 yards.
So 25.
If you and if I have a stage where I'm going to be having my shooters shoot 250 yards, I'll typically let them shoot that morning, just because 80% of them are going to be completely deer in the headlights, and they have no idea what to do with that.
Right.
The top tier shooters they'll be right on it, and they'll be fine. But I don't want to be almost punishing the new shooters or the inexperienced ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's not fun for anybody.
Sure. Is this when you have, if you have a course of fire or a stage that is a longer distance, is there any type of wind measurement, that, any socks or anything out in the field, or can somebody?
That's going to determine, or it's going to be different based on the match director. Mm-hmm. So I've had some where there's none, and I just didn't really think of it or didn't really care. I just thought, figure it out.
Yeah.
And sometimes people, like an air rifle guy, might ask me once in a while, "Hey, can I put a flag out there?"
Yep.
And I'll let them. I have no problem with that, because as long as it's fair for everybody, if everybody has the wind flag, that's fine. If no one has it, that's also fine.
Okay. All right. Well, Jim, as I thought, this thing, we have been talking and we've covered some time here. And it's been good. It's all some really, really good information. And I've got a whole list of things that I still want to talk to you about, but I think we may just have to get you back for another episode to cover some more of this.
Great.
So perhaps if you're willing, we'll get you back again and we'll go over open class next time. I think for most of our shooters are going to be starting off, and the base class is going to be the most prevalent, but then we can talk open class. I want to talk to you some about setting up my scope and getting all that figured out, and getting, the MOA built into it, and figure out on the bases and in the rings on how to get it to where I can shoot 250 with no problem and whatnot. But that'll, again, we can talk for hours and hours on that. But Jim, we really appreciate your time. Now, if somebody wants to come shoot your local match, where they go to get some information about what you're doing locally?
So the best thing is to email me at 22lrmarksmen, MEN, @gmail.com, and I'll respond there, and we'll take a look at what we need to help you with.
Okay, so that's if you're in the Utah area, want to go out and shoot with Jim once they get things going after this COVID-19, and after you and your wife have your baby too. Got to get that taken care of. Can't forget about her.
That's right.
And all right, and then also go on the Instagram 22LR Marksman and follow Jim there. He's always got lots of good information on there. They really send him a lot of. He gets, what I like watching is he gets all the new products, all the stuff that's coming out or about to come out. They send to him to test. And so if you're looking for new gear and the latest and greatest, Jim's usually getting it or about to get it or knows something about it and can tell you about it. So be sure and go on Instagram and follow him. But
thank you very much.
You bet, Jim. We certainly appreciate your time. Tell your lovely bride good luck, and we're praying for y'all as y'all go through this. And I know y'all are excited to have baby number 2 on the way.
That's right. That's right. It's gonna be awesome.
Okay. All right. Very good, Jim. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
All right. That finished up there with Jim, and moving on to bleeding off with Joseph. We will move on to that to see what have you been doing now that you can't go to the range all the time to keep up your skills.
It's pretty short and sweet, just because personally I'm not stuck in the house. We're lucky enough to kind of live out in the middle of nowhere.
Sure.
And so there's not somebody watching me in my 1-bedroom apartment where there's somebody above and below me, and if they see me go out, I'm going to get in trouble or something like that. We also don't have to depend on a public range to be open, which right now none of them are open, I don't think. So these are just kind of things that are meant to be done in your living room. And so it's a lot of dry fire. Dry fire is something that if you're not doing it, you need to be doing it. It's probably the most helpful thing with pistol shooting, because it makes you work on your grip and your trigger pull, and
Yep.
you have to like criticize yourself, and so you're not able to cheat yourself. And if you are, then as soon as you put a live round in there, it's gonna go wherever. Like you need to know where it's going, and a lot of that comes from dry fire. Um, so a lot of that is what I'm doing, and it's just literally just from a draw on the timer. Like, so I'm working on my draw speed, and then I'm just watching that front sight post. And whenever I pull that trigger, I don't want that thing to move at all. And I've just got a little piece of tape like on my wall that's my point of aim that I shoot for. And other than that, super low round count drills. If I do go outside, it's been raining here kind of lately. So if I am going outside, I don't want to use this time because I know there's an ammo shortage. I don't want to shoot up all my ammo right now when I don't know when I'll be able to buy more.
I know where you can get some ammo.
Or when it'll be available. But that's a lot of people's thought is,
Yep.
I have, a lot of people have different types of ammo. So you'll have like what you carry with and then what
Yeah.
you practice with. So they may have 200 rounds of practice ammo or target ammo. Well, they don't want to use all that right now because
Sure.
then they're just out of it. And so then you're kind of limited to low round count drills, which you can either do the 4 for core, you can do just super easy, like one drill that I really like, and it's only 2 rounds. It's on the timer from loaded and holstered. You draw, shoot one, reload, shoot another one. And so that's 2 rounds. You can do that thing 100 times and shoot half a box of ammo.
Right.
And so something like that, or even just a 1 round drill. So for just one bullet, I like to start unloaded. And so on the timer, you literally just draw, load, rack, shoot. And so there's a lot of moving parts there, a lot of things to work on, and you're only shooting 1 round. So just really, really low round count things. If you have any questions or if you're looking for some drills, we can get some for you. I'm sure Blake can
Absolutely.
help us think of something, or we can come up with something. Or if you just want to know what I'm doing, I can post those on there. I can make them up. And
Absolutely do that on there, because what I've been working on and what I realize is and this is ultra beginner stuff here, but this is just where I'm at. One is when I draw, to make sure that the dot's right where I think it is, and I'm not hunting the dot. And the other thing is getting both hands positioned correctly. Because half the time I come up and then I got my left hand and I've got my thumb in the wrong spot, and then I finally found the dot, and so I'm just going over and over muscle memory, getting that to where it pulls, and I grab it the same, and I immediately see the dot. And
that,
anyway.
I mean, you don't have to shoot it all. Working on that.
Yeah, right.
You can do that in your living room, and all it takes is time. You do that 200 times in an hour. You just designate an hour to just work on your draw, or sight picture, finding the dot after you draw. That's doesn't cost you any money.
Yes, I've been doing that and dry firing just at the wall there, and like you say, picking a spot and going to it each time. And anyway,
but that's honestly it. That's all I've been working on. Just trying to keep the ammo count down, and just work on things that are really gonna get ingrained, like my trigger pull and my grip, things that should be the same no matter how good I get. Those are things that are just gonna help me get there, but they're not gonna change.
Yep. Okay, very good. All right, that's going to be wrapping up our episode 6 here. We had a really good conversation with Jim Cannon, 22LR marksman, about some NRL 22 stuff. Going to definitely have him back on in the future to talk about open class and open class rifle setup, but we got us an idea on the base class, and that'll lead us into our next episode. On our next episode, we're going to go over what Joseph and I are going to be setting up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a rifle that'll shoot ARA factory class, and I'll also shoot NRL 22 base class, because I want to shoot both of those, but I just want to do it on one rifle, one setup and everything, and that way we can use, Because what we're going to do is basically we can set it up where we can take that bipod off, and then I'll put the bipod on. We'll go shoot NRL 22, take it off, and we'll shoot us some ARA factory class. We're going to go over that. We'll have Blake Lyles from 415 Training back with us. We'll go over more of the 4-for-core drill as well as expand into a couple of other drills and get some guidance from Blake on what we need to be working on next. Also want to remind you to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. We've got all those set up. Check out our new website, www.straightshootingwithdanandjoseph.com. All that spelled out. And be sure and email us, host@straightshootingwithdanandjoseph.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we look forward to seeing you on episode 7 in about 2 weeks. All right, so thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening.